Hello and welcome to the Cryptonaut podcast. My name is Mark Stores, and hanging out with me, as always, is
Rob Morphy.
Excellent, Robert. Thank you so much. Christopher, back from the dead. What's happening, buddy?
I'm slightly back from the dead.
Nice.
I'm
nice.
mostly,
Partially resurrected?
yeah. Like 80, no, not even 80, 65. Like, it's not that good.
You wouldn't even give yourself the over the 70 mark. You're like 65% resurrected.
No, like D-.
Wow.
Nice.
But a lot, so I'm living, but barely.
Yeah, coasting.
That's good. Yeah, no, that's good. We're still behind our computer monitors here. I'm still a little bit garbage. I feel fine. I'm working, doing my shit. Let me tell you, though, what I've been dealing with is amoxicillin. Boy, that's a fun one.
Oh, is that the shits giver?
Oh, dude, it is the giver of the shats. Like, holy.
Just Amox, or is it Augmentin?
No, I had a root I had a root canal done. So just to be safe, they gave me amoxicillin because the guy was like, yeah, no, he's like, your tooth is a skank and it's full of garbage. And I was like, bro, I feel you. Give me the amox. So yeah, I think I went to the bathroom no less than probably 10 times this night during the Super Bowl. I was really happy about that, just watching it from my phone. So yeah, good times. The boys are back. We're behind our screens. We're doing it. We are here today, fellas, for the Alien Invasion Italian Style Part 2, The Reckoning. Now, unfortunately, Christopher was not able to join us for last week's episode, but he did do the required homework, so he is caught up on everything. And yes, we are hanging out in Italy. And Robert, this is in the 70s, correct? Yes, I just read it right here.
Yes,
it is in the 70s. This is a really cool flap of things that are happening over there. So without
this is at like the peak of the disco era. And I'm
yeah,
sure it's associated somehow.
Yeah, no, dude, Kiss is there, ABBA's there. It's fucking dope. So everyone's doing it. So without further ado, let's get started with, although 1978 was a banner year for Italian ufology, the tail end of this mega wave would prove to be one of the most intense in history. While the bewildered citizens of Italy had already been plagued by a basket full of bizarre beings, even for them, the weirdest was yet to come.
It's going to get goofy.
Dude, we're in Italy. We got pizza. We got all kinds of dope shit. We got
lasagna,
some lasagna, some parmesan, some prosciutto. Yeah, dude.
Some
and now
gabagool.
Some gabagool. I'm convinced that gabagool is going to be the end of me because I love it so goddamn much, and it is so like thinly sliced and just salty pork that like it's gonna undo me. It's gonna be my undoing.
I mean, if you have to have an undoing, you could pick worse enemies.
Yeah, but death by gabagool is not good. Like
it's not the worst though. It really isn't.
I don't know. It's pretty bad. But regardless, Robert, let's get into this, buddy.
Italy, 1978, ranks among the craziest coalitions of crackpot critters ever to have coalesced within such a narrow slice of the space-time continuum, ably ranking even against such legendary locales as Point Pleasant, West Virginia, 1967, or 1973's epic Year of the Humanoids, which is fucking awesome and full of great accounts. During the course of that fateful time span, and in particular the last few months, which is the period that we've decided to focus on here, the Italian people reported run-ins with an incredible array of enigmatic entities, most notably hyperlanky humanoids, an array of radiant, floating figures, eerie elven holograms, massive yellow-eyed reptoids and their deceased clear cylinder encased froggy foes, we'll remember that from Zanfretta, and last but not least, a small but pervasive contingent of tiny technofae who seem to enjoy zipping around, scaring the shit out of local motorists. But we'll pick up our story where we left off. Just 2 days after the anonymous airmen stationed at the San Vito dei Normanni air station watched a Technicolor Dreamcoat-clad entity ascend into the sky to presumably catch its ride back to the cosmos, and nearly 24 hours after an unnamed experiencer boarded an evidently empty flying saucer in Torrebruna, the action would, for the first time, move off the mainland to the island of Sicily. That date was December 15th, 1978, and it would prove to be among the most robust in this flap, with no less than 5, maybe actually more, separate events taking place across the full breadth of the nation. This is the big one. The first incident occurred in Catania on the east coast of Sicily just minutes into the new day at 12:15 a.m. when, according to an account published on January 6th in the newspaper La Sicilia, a group of boys would have a truly sci-fi caliber encounter with the wildest pair of weirdos yet described in this extraordinary flap. And can I say again, how fucking happy I am that there is no gray. Not a gray to be found in Italy.
Yep.
Not a single goddamn
Delicious
one.
meats, beautiful art, great movies, no fucking grays.
No gray.
No, dude, I think Zanfretta's came and ate them.
Oh, yeah. God
yeah,
bless.
dude, they had gray kebabs. Dude, they turned the grays into gabagool.
That's where it comes from.
You mean keep a guy?
Keep a guy. I mean, keep a guy. Yeah, gabagool. Gabagool.
The report stated that two boys. Yeah, no, I was just going to let that go on for about as long as it could.
We're going to get so many shitty comments about that.
Yeah, you're going to hear at least another 5
You guys
or 6
are
times.
at least Italian. You can get away with it. It's your culture you mock.
Yeah, this is our culture that we mock. So there, and leave your fucking comments to yourself. So,
Whoa.
Yeah, there you go.
Hard.
Everyone calm down.
That's Italian.
I know we're on the first account. Everyone just chill out.
That's Italian Mark coming out.
Wow.
Nice.
Jeez.
I love you guys. I'm kidding. All right, here we go.
I love you more. The report stated that two young boys, 9-year-old Franco Pistorio and 8-year-old Gianfranco Nasca, were outside at that ungodly hour thanks to either extremely cool or very negligent parents, playing next to a large television array when the bright moonlight above was abruptly snuffed out. Startled, the boys looked up to see a discoidal object swathed in an array of multicolored lights hovering motionless above them. But as strange as that sight surely was, things were about to get much, much weirder. Without warning, an aperture opened up in the bottom of the flying saucer, shooting a luminous beam down at the feet of the stunned youth. Within seconds, their awe would transform into stark terror as they watched what was, to them anyway, a massive monstrosity which they described as being, quote, very ugly like Frankenstein, end quote. The thing, which stood nearly 5 feet tall, again, massive is a relative term, slowly came down on what was apparently a Technicolor transport beam before irrationally stopping and hovering mere inches above the ground. In the seconds it took for the thing to descend, Gianfranco fled the scene while Franco hid nearby, riveted to the sight before him. He would later describe the creature to reporters in vague but evocative terms, claiming that the hideous beast bore 2 bulbous eyes and a pair of antenna-like projections atop its head. Within seconds, Franco noticed that this frightful fiend had an even larger, though equally ugly companion staring out of the still open hatch. It was at this moment that, evidently attracted by the light show, the commotion, or some combination thereof, a second 9-year-old happened upon the scene, one Sebastiano Musamisi. I think I'm saying it right.
Who the fuck is in charge of these kids?
I know, 9 and 8-year-old.
What's happening?
Midnight. I mean, we used to play jailbreak and shit. Now we've talked about that, but under semi-parental supervision and not 8 and 9, I don't think.
Yeah.
But, hey, it's fucking Sicily 78. It's a different rule.
Yeah, as in no rules.
Yeah, there are zero.
Yeah, they probably have to get up early for their shift at the fishing plant tomorrow or whatever.
Yeah, right.
Gotta make the goobagee.
Yes.
Fucking no curfew.
Dude, they all work in the Gabagool plant. How dope would that be?
I mean, all you can eat. I
Dude,
mean, you die at 14 of a coronary.
Yeah, dude, you die by the time you're 10. The poor kid's got 1 year left. Fuck, dude. 14's giving him a lot of time, man.
Yeah, true.
Pepperoni kills.
Almost certainly gape-mouthed, Sebastiano stared skyward as the second creature came down on that rainbow-hued light beam. Besides being even bigger than the first, so probably like 5'2", this brute came armed with what Franco and Sebastiano, I'm going to say that name different every time, claimed was a kind of laser gun.
Ooh.
As soon as the second beast touched down onto the ground, the beam was suddenly extinguished. It was then that the second thing slipped past, its still hovering cohort. Remember, first fucking monster is still like 3 inches above the ground for no good fucking reason.
Just floating. Yeah.
And for reasons unknown, perhaps a display of power, aimed its weapon at a nearby rock and fired. In a flash, the rock caught fire before exploding in a cascade of stony shrapnel. If causing fear was the being's intent, the boys were glad to oblige. So fucking slightly bigger dude comes down, towering over the little tiny Sicilian boys, blasts the fucking rock, it heats up and explodes. Why? Who the fuck knows?
It is a show of force. Like, look what I can do.
Yeah, I'm badass.
Yeah,
look, my buddy doesn't even have to touch the ground. I can destroy a rock.
There you go.
Bow before my might.
Excellent.
It was then that the remaining kids, Franco from his hiding place, and Sebastiano, presumably from a more open and therefore more vulnerable position, watched as the armed entity bent over. The young eyewitnesses then saw something that was, to them, as well as us, inexplicable. According to their account, the moment the creature stooped down, a goopy black liquid poured out of its shoulder onto the ground. Was this thing wounded or bleeding, or might it have been the equivalent of interdimensional oil streaming out of a robotic or cybernetic being? Perhaps it was seeding the soil, but I mean, I can't help, when I see this, my first thought of all things was a kappa, the Japanese turtle demon of rivers, where it has that little cup inverted skull, and if the water dumps out, it's vulnerable and somehow you can control it or whatever. I mean, not that you want to fuck around because it'll probably drown you before that happens, if indeed you run into a kappa. So I know it's probably nothing like that. It's probably just bleeding, or who the fuck knows, but it's just weird. This thing bends over and this like goopy black liquid just starts going, Prometheus style into the ground, seeding it with the DNA of a new fucking overlord, or who the fuck, something dumb, who knows?
Yeah, I mean, it's not like it was injured during this encounter. It just kind of like, oh, look, I'm leaking. Like, weird.
Yeah.
All right, strange.
It is weird.
All right, man.
With that, the multi-hued beam came back on, sucking the twin uglies back up into the saucer's open maw before shooting away at an astounding rate. The event, which lasted only about 2 minutes, presumably stuck with the observers for life. Reporters called to the site noted that strange, albeit unidentified, traces were found at the scene. But unfortunately, it seems that no UFO investigators were dispatched to collect any of this potential evidence, including the mysterious black substance that issued from the alien's alleged shoulder. Don't know if it's really shoulder. Could have been something else.
Yeah, right.
In the interest of painting as full a picture as possible, though I was not able to determine if the hokey sci-fi horror garbage plate of cheddarific joy known as 1965's Frankenstein Meets the Space Monster had recently aired on Italian television in the winter of 1978, or for that matter, if any of the boys in question had access to a TV set at the time, one would be remiss not to acknowledge the fact that the titular monster that does battle with the severely damaged android astronaut referred to therein as Frankenstein is in fact a butt-ugly, antenna-bearing, bug-eyed monster that could not only have inspired the aliens in question, but also might have, thanks to the so-called Frankenstein of the movie's title, created the tenuous link between the aforesaid alien and Mary Shelley's iconic creation in the minds of a group of impressionable elementary schoolers. The whimsy of a child, as a dear friend might say. I mean, the first thing I thought when I saw this is that this looks a hell of a lot like that monster. Not as much as, say, that one creature from the movie that's slipping my mind looks like the Thetis Lake monster, and then they proved that it was on TV around that time.
Right.
But still pretty uncanny in the Frankenstein reference, even though obviously it's Frankenstein's fucking monster, but the kids just, like a lot of kids do, called it Frankenstein, so we're just going with that.
Yeah.
So I felt like it should be pointed out. And I'll continue. But of course, just because a monster found in a schlocktastic mid-60s anti-classic, which I am sure our listeners are already aware I absolutely adore, bears a passing resemblance to the creatures described, does not mean that it, or its frankly weak relationship to the flick's token Frankenstein monster, served as the inspiration for either of them. But in the interest of completeness and my unerring love of discussing whenever possible the semi-obscure greats of trash cinema, I thought I'd bring it up. Make of it what you will. So it's there. Pin it. Fucking move on.
Yeah.
Dude, well, The Whimsy of a Child, man. Forthcoming book from Mark, Amazon. Check it out. It's there. Just discredits every child's experience with aliens ever. It's fine. Like,
They've never told the truth.
they're all liars, thieves, cheats,
Wow. Vagabonds.
That's
vagabonds, yes, orphans, perhaps. Yes.
So you first alienate our Italian fucking fan base, and now the child fan base, which probably shouldn't be listening to us to begin with, is now completely cut off.
I am telling these kids, do not listen to this podcast.
Wow.
Yeah,
Eat
exactly.
patty meats.
Unless, of course, the only way a kid's able to listen to this to the podcast is if they are a Patreon supporter over at patreon.com/Cryptonaut podcast.
Wow.
Then they can listen.
All right.
That is mercenary.
Kid, if you got money, you're in. If not, fucking tell your parents. You're in trouble. Fucking telling your fucking mom, yo.
Dick.
Yeah, that's right.
Maybe this was nothing more than a case of imaginative boys anxious to get in on the UFO fun that they'd almost certainly been hearing about from their parents and in radio accounts hailing from the mainland. Once having come forward, perhaps these children were then goaded on by less than scrupulous reporters eager for any excuse to fill inches of byline and minutes of airtime. It's a possibility. But in the late 70s, as my fucking near geriatric ass can attest from experience, the penalties for lying tended to be more severe than in this more enlightened age, and parents of any era are never eager to be embarrassed by their children's shenanigans. So maybe Sebastiano and Gianfranco really were just three kids in the wrong place at the wrong time who got caught up in events well and truly beyond their control or even the scope of their understanding. So maybe not the whimsy of a child.
No, but I mean, thankfully, like they weren't hurt. Nothing happened. The dude blew up a rock. I mean, he was trying to impress him. Like, hey, kid. Yeah, exactly.
No,
like,
it's literally like what a fifth grader would do with firecrackers if he thinks he's got to act cool in front of the third graders.
Right.
It is not an impressive display of power, but that in a way adds, our legitimacy is strong, but it adds to me a little credibility, because if you're going to make up a story, make up a fucking story. The Thetis monster story, the thing charges you, you get stabbed by its head fin, it's on, and you're risking life and limb. This is just weird. This is not like good storytelling.
No, almost kind of like Casablanca a little bit, you know? Just
not sure what you mean at all.
The Casablanca entities.
Oh, I thought you literally meant the Bogey film. And I'm like, I don't know what the fuck you're doing.
No.
I knew that's what you thought, and I just let that play out.
No,
Jesus Christ. I'm like, where is he going with this?
Chris's long game prevails. Like the whole Casablanca entities, how they appeared and doing a bunch of weird shit for no reason.
And for the exact same reason that I said it about this case, I think it applies to that as well. Like,
totally.
I mean,
for sure.
It's just so fucking weird. It doesn't mean it's definitely not a lie, but it's like, it doesn't make sense.
Yeah, no, there's nothing really. It's kind of like a lot of the encounters that we talk about. Nothing crazy ever really happens. It's just like, oh, look, here's some weird shit. And then that's it. Like some weird, like Chris said, some like weird, like, show of force. And here's my friend that can levitate.
Well, a lot of crazy shit just happened to those fucking kids. Like the rainbow beams and the hovering for no good reason and all sorts of shit. Yeah. But none of it is significant or good storytelling. It's just fucking significantly weird.
It's just kids telling a shitty story, or they experience some sort of enigmatic entities.
Yes.
Yeah.
Or that.
There you go. Yeah. You know what? I believe the kids because they have no reason to lie.
There you go.
There you go.
Our second encounter took place just miles away, approximately 45 minutes later, but featured a decidedly different caliber of creature. According to local newspaper reports, at about 1 a.m. on December 15th, 1978, 48-year-old Angelo Capuzzello was driving his truck in the Licodia Ubia on the Catan-Ragusa Highway, also known as Catania State Road 514. So, got all that. When, as in last week's Tora Bruna case, his radio suddenly went on the fritz. Evidently a music lover, Angelo pulled over into an emergency zone service area demarcated on the side of the road and began tinkering with his radio. It was as the trucker was about to turn on the dome light that his attention was caught by a sudden burst outside of his window. It was a light he later compared to that produced by an electric arc. Shielding his eyes, Angelo waited and watched as a gleaming over 30-foot high cylindrical object with a cupola-like protuberance on top descended to the ground, landing behind some nearby vegetation. So basically, a big giant dick. comes to the ground.
Just a big
Nice.
Next to
giant-
Angelo. Big giant space dick.
I mean, on our Patreon last week, we did have the random flying butt plug. So I think Chris may have missed that one for sure. But when this thing lands, you're like, oh man, can't fit that. Things are gonna get tough. Things are gonna get real fucking tough.
If you're trying to get symbolic, you're overdoing it, buddy.
Yeah, no, for sure. Sometimes you just gotta be like, there's a big giant dick from space, and just be like, hail the big giant dick. And
I wouldn't have said it if it was just normal. But the cupola on top, that makes it phallic.
Yeah, it does.
Cupola.
Yep.
Cupola. I don't even know how to say that word. Cupola. Cupola. I'm going to say it cupola from now on.
Oh, we're gonna get so many comments about cupola.
I'm going to make a documentary about cupolas.
A documentary?
Documentary about the cupulos.
Yeah, that's right.
Capola.
Oh my God. That's Ebola with meat. The stun driver remained rooted to the spot, staring out into the darkness. Then just a few minutes after the odd object landed, he watched as a pair of masculine figures, both nearly 7 feet tall, emerged from the shrubs less than 20 feet away. The men were both clad in skin-tight bluish-black outfits, complete with matching boots and gloves that terminated in bulky, round-backed helmets bearing boxy side panels where the ears ought to have been. These side panels were smothered in an array of interconnected wires and had short antennae sticking up out of them. It's like a fucking Radio Shack special. It's like something Broderick would have cobbled together, in between scenes of war games. They both also had clear face plates below circular headlamps that were so brilliant it obscured their features. At first, Angelo, not realizing that the men were from the descended cylinder, assumed that he was dealing with a pair of preternaturally large predators who might seek to burglarize him. So, as the figures came near, he casually concealed the money he was carrying inside the truck. But as the beings approached to within inches of his vehicle, blinding him with their intense head beams, Angelo, who suddenly and inexplicably felt drained of energy, realized that these visitors might not be, strictly speaking, human. Slumped in his seat, the trucker watched as the colossal characters communicated with one another in broad gestures and what seemed to be a series of utterly unintelligible sounds. It sounds like they're fucking Italian.
So they're
talking about meats.
Using their hands. I honestly, I use my hands constantly when I talk, and it's fucking so stupid because I don't even do it correctly. I'm not putting anything forward. I'm just like using it to emphasize shit.
Oh, you guys see me every week narrating. I'm like a composer or like a conductor. Yeah. I'm constantly I'm just hitting the mic. And that's not. I guess it's all of us. We all tend to be communicative in ways beyond our voice.
Maybe that's a upstate New York thing, man. Just like our accents, it's an upstate New York thing. There you go.
No, definitely. Okay. Then, as they turned away, Angelo caught a glimpse of one of their faces, describing it as that of a, quote, beautiful young man, end quote, with features that looked too young to need a shave. So they're almost 7 foot tall, like these fucking ubermenches, and just like baby-faced. Like just cute little baby faces. The lethargic Angelo watched as the massive, almost beatific beings vanished into the darkness from whence they had come. After just a few seconds, he heard what sounded like a huge firework exploding. Always fireworks, just like Azalea anomalies. Was that it? The fireworks gone awry.
Alzada, yeah.
Alzada, yes.
Yeah.
Fucking Azalea. Jesus Christ.
Jesus.
Followed by the ascension of the strange cylinder that had landed just moments before. The trucker noted that the vehicle was now glowing more brightly at the top than the bottom and scorching away at a phenomenal speed, at which point the atmosphere was permeated with the smell of sulfur. Demones.
Oh, shit.
And his radio resumed working. All in all, the entire incident lasted only about 6 minutes. The following day, Angelo and a trusted friend returned to the scene of the encounter, where the almost certainly frazzled witness was delighted to find a grouping of large boot prints with myriad circles imprinted on the soles. The tracks were estimated to be a European size 54, which translates to an American size 19.5, or roughly a 14-inch foot, which would seem to be about right considering the prodigious height of these immense, albeit youthful-looking beings. Moving on. No, we'll cover it out at the end. We're just going to hammer through this.
Yeah, the I didn't realize European size 54 translates to a 19.5. It's fucking nuts.
Yeah,
so.
that took a Googling. That's certainly not information I had at my fingertips.
Excellent. All right, cool. Continuing on, Robert.
The third sighting, recorded on December 15th, remember all this shit is happening the same fucking day, took place over 760 miles to the northwest of Sicily on the island of Sardinia. At about 5:45 p.m., eyewitnesses claimed that a luminous orange sphere that appeared to be about 6.5 feet in diameter soared above the residential area of Macomer, heading in a northerly direction. Where this object may have been heading is a matter of conjecture, but a mere 45 minutes later, some 440 miles directly to the north, the direction it was flying, a mysterious reddish figure, which may or may not have been affiliated with the orange orb, was seen by a group of frightened observers. Excuse me, not frightened. The incident, reported by author and ufologist Chris Aubeck in Return to Magonia, which we referenced last week, took place in Calegno, a municipality in the metropolitan city of Turin. According to the account, at 6:30 p.m., several eyewitnesses claimed to have seen a humanoid figure that stood just over 5 feet tall and was clad neck to feet in a rose-colored overall, which, unlike so many of its ilk, was not reported to be glowing. So just plain old, lavendery, pinky, rose-colored, fucking coverall.
I mean, just some cool, dude with hip fashion.
Hell yeah.
So far,
so good. But what truly struck the observers as peculiar was the fact that this bizarre being was seen scooting around a field at inhuman speeds, as well as the fact that, though otherwise normal looking, the creature in question had no face. After sprinting around the parcel at a preternatural pace, the being, perhaps succumbing to fatigue, leaned against a stone wall where it remained completely immobile for the better part of 30 minutes. During its brief respite, some of the witnesses broke off to call the authorities, while the rest stayed behind, maintaining a safe distance lest they inadvertently provoke this faceless fiend. Though some of the observers, presumably those who had arrived after the thing's uncannily rapid display, were of a mind that this was nothing more than a prank, most were not so sure. Whatever the case may have been, as soon as the police arrived, the speedy stranger, perhaps sensing that it had worn its welcome to a fully frayed end, stood erect and shot through what was reported to be a small opening in the wall, where it instantly vanished from sight. So it's pink, it's fast, it's faceless, and it can go into little tiny holes.
Okay, yeah,
I don't even know what I'm seeing.
Yeah, man, that one's like that's a whole bag of nuts right there, man.
Yeah, it is. So many of these things are.
Okay, all right, weird.
The next, and as far as we know, final incident in that undeniably hectic day occurred sometime after dark. The northern climes must have agreed with the visitors, as the next stop was in the city of Casale, Monferrato, located in the Piedmont region of northwestern Italy, just 30 miles due west of Turin, where they keep a shroud, I hear.
Yeah.
Once again reported by Chris Aubeck, this last known case of December 15th is as Spartan as it is intriguing. The event as such involved an unnamed man who, while driving through Casale, claimed to have seen a vibrantly glowing humanoid standing in the center of the road. Intrigued, the witness slowed his vehicle, easing in for a closer look. The lucent figure, evidently intimidated by the encroaching car, streaked away so swiftly that it almost seemed to vanish. A subsequent search of the area revealed substantial damage was made to the trees, shrubs, and a nearby field as it beat a hasty retreat. So all I can imagine is like those old fucking Warner Brothers cartoons where like somebody just like runs through a fucking wall and it's the shape of their body, and it's just or trees, like anything they go through, you just see this outline. This thing moves so fast that all of a sudden it's like boom, 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 and they got all this like detritus of like branches and kicked up rocks because fucking speedy fucking glow master just shot away.
Yeah, this guy's destructive apparently. That's crazy.
So one guy can fall into a wall and he doesn't glow, but he has no face. This guy does glow. And last week we had like the techno fae and all sorts of other crazy shit. So we're just building. And what I love is that there are definitely analogies between some of these events. and some of these creatures that are seen. And then some of them are just like out of left fucking field. And you're like, okay, I'm just going to deal with you now.
There. Last week we had some similarities. This week, I don't know, man. This is all kind of just shooting from the hip with these ones here.
Yeah, I mean, the glowing one does kind of bring it back to like some of the earlier cases, like bit, of the glowing fast things that for some reason want to run around beautiful fields and then die in a valley in Italy, as I recall last week.
That's what we were. So that's the plan, man. Is dying in an olive field in Italy. So.
Jam-packed as the 15th had been, there would be no respite from the interplanetary insanity as the next event in this ongoing saga occurred just hours later in the early morning hours of December 16th, 1978. Once again, the action returned to Italy's east coast, specifically Francavilla al Mare, a seaside resort town nestled in the northernmost point of the Chieti province, which, you'll recall from last week's episode, served as the primary hub of that winter's anomalous occurrences. The incident in question began at about 2:30 a.m. when a college co-ed staying with her parents at their beachfront property woke to an unbelievable display outside her balcony window. According to a report filed in issue 218 of the French ufology journal Lumières dans la Nuit, which I fucking did not say right, but I said it with a lot of passion.
I'm in.
It was close.
The co-ed, one Daniela Baldassare, glanced outside just in time to catch sight of a bright white ovoid object hurtling downward. Daniela leapt up and rushed outside onto the balcony, fully expecting to see the UFO crash into the sea. But instead of splashing down, the device, in a cartoon caliber defiance of the accepted laws of gravity, simply screeched to a halt mid-air and began to hover above the Adriatic. So it's like those old again cartoons, like with the Gremlins, which I used to love, those World War II ones, where Bugs Bunny or whatever, it just stops on a dime, the plane, once it runs out of gas, 3 inches above the ground, not crashing. And this thing just did it. Because that's what fucking science is like for these fuckers. So good for them. Dicks. Daniela stared in wide-eyed wonder as the inexplicable object suddenly grew brighter and seemed to become enveloped in a gaseous cloud that cast an eerie fluorescent glow onto the roiling black waves below. Then, without warning, a pair of red and green lights positioned at opposite ends of the object began to pulsate. The co-ed tried to maintain her cool, but in what seems to be an obligatory reaction for so many of the witnesses in this wave, Daniela decided to forego remaining inconspicuous and proceeded to shout at the top of her lungs for her parents to wake up and come see this incredible light show. Everyone's shouting. Remember last fucking week, everyone shouted and the aliens ran away.
Yep, everyone was freaking out, saying, come on, come on, come on. And then it was that weird fascist dude, right?
The super fascist, and then that lady with the loose-fitting tunics creatures on her terrace.
Yep, everyone's screaming. You can't yell. They get scared.
They get scared. They always get scared. That's the thing. But this time, not so much. Surprisingly, her parents failed to respond to her bellowed entreaties. Perhaps it was an example of the typical flying saucer mesmerization, or maybe her mom and dad were just deep sleepers. Whatever the reasons may have been regarding her parents' inability to answer, it was at that moment that Daniela noticed a flash of movement in the moonlight. Suddenly, a jolt of ice water shot through her veins as she spied a pair of bizarre beings who seemed to be lumbering their way up onto the sandy beach. Despite their proximity to the odd object, the observer insisted that, as strange as these twin trespassers may have been, and as tempting as it may be to associate them with the floating phenomenon hovering nearby, at no point did she see them enter or exit the UFO. But whatever their origins may be, the startled student instantly knew that the creatures she was staring at were anything but human. Daniela later described these oddly proportioned entities, which she would refer to as dwarves, as being just over 3 feet tall and extremely thin with huge, squarish heads and almost comically large feet. The duo were dressed in dark gray, skin-tight uniforms, which had a bluish-green tint, not unlike the reflection of a dragonfly's exoskeleton. Weirdly, the pair seemed to be moving in slow motion, almost as if the pair were stuck in an adjacent time stream, shifted ever so slightly from the one the rest of us occupy. The student could only stare as these ambulatory anomalies walked one in front of the other, utilizing an odd, limping gait, which may or may not be attributable to the awkwardness of their colossal, clown-like feet. So these fucking super skinny, clown-footed, square-headed fuck-alls
Yeah, I don't even know.
are, and it gets weirder. Stranger still was the fact that these hobbling, small-shouldered, they emphasize that in a lot of the accounts, little tiny shoulders, intruders were walking backwards. The co-ed watched the twitching twosome as they maneuvered around a greenhouse before vanishing down an alley between her parents' property and the next door neighbors. So maybe they're not only caught in a different like time stream, some Langolier type shit, you know, shout out to Stephen King, but maybe they're also moving backwards through time, or they're just intentionally walking backwards because you can't see my face. Fuck you. I don't know.
Yeah, I wanted to draw like a cool like mirrored man comparison, but you kind of can't really, because they're seen like in groups of 3 or more, mimicking each other's movement. But these things are like walking backwards, and they're in some weird motion with their tiny little shoulders. Yeah,
tiny shoulders, huge feet, big square heads.
I mean, maybe the huge feet. That's why they're walking all weird. You know?
Right. I mean, Occam's razor.
Backwards?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, their feet are so large it forces them to walk backwards because their toes hang out.
But slow motion too.
Because they're so big.
And there's
you
a difference between walking slowly and like doing some like full body mime shit where you aren't acting like you're literally going slower than you ought to be.
Right.
I'm not saying that these creatures can't do it. I'm not saying they're not studied. I'm not saying they can't get into Juilliard. I'm just saying it's fucking weird.
Yeah, no, it's bizarre. Weird. It is definitely bizarre, man. All right, cool. Well,
so
shit.
Moments after the dwarves disappeared, the light within the radiant cloud encasing the UFO hovering near the breakwater also snuffed out, leaving a dumbfounded Daniela with no trace of the alien craft or its ostensible occupants. For her part, the eyewitness claimed that she felt both amazed and frightened during the experience, but that she did her best to stay calm. And good on her. Got to keep your shit together in these moments.
Yeah,
for your parents, sure, you're a kid, but, you know, keep your shit together.
That's right.
In the interest of painting as full a picture as possible, it's worth mentioning that the backwards creeping, big-footed squareheads seen by Daniela Baldassare bear more than a passing resemblance to the trio of 2-foot-tall bipedal blockheads that were encountered by 2 12-year-old Italian sheepherders, Marziano Giampieri and Pacifico Tantucci, I think I got that right, in the province of Macerata, which is just north of Chieti, on the afternoon of October 25th, 1954. These curious critters wore metallic bodysuits and had heads that the witnesses compared to large loaves of bread.
Oh, boy.
After being chased by the boys, the visitors managed to make their escape in a propeller-powered, keg-shaped craft. That's right, shaped like a keg. It's got fucking propellers.
Yeah.
Fucking top-notch tech. Fucking fantastic. Before shooting an exploding fireball that knocked the eyewitnesses' ass over tea kettle. Anyone interested in learning more about this intriguing incident should check out episode 241, Old Saybrook Blockheads, and in this specific case, the Macerata Melonheads, which is what we call them. So we covered this back in 241.
Yes, we did. Yep.
And it's fucking fascinating. And even though obviously it's, you know, decades before this current flap, it's odd. Just the blockheadedness of it made me think about it. So I included it.
Nice.
Later on, at approximately 4 p.m., the same day as Daniela's sighting, still December 16th, we're talking here, a man named Alfredo Diavario was out riding his bicycle near Francavilla in the Chieti province, never once suspecting that he was about to become a part of the wefts and warps that made up a tiny but twisted section of the interdimensional tapestry that was being woven by non-human intelligences in Italy throughout 1978. According to Alberto Rosales' indispensable Humcat, or humanoid catalog, which obviously we reference all the time and it's fantastic, Alfredo was in the middle of nowhere, pedaling like mad, trying to avoid ruining his bike on the desolate, winding, pockmarked road that led to his home. when he suddenly stumbled across the kind of high strangeness that would leave anyone reeling. As he flew around a bend in the unpaved road, Alfredo looked up to see two exceedingly thin and decidedly non-human entities standing in the middle of the street, not far ahead. The pair were clad in silvery uniforms that, unlike the snug wetsuit fit found in most alien fashion shows, consisted of loose-fitting pants and bulky jackets made complete with large black helmets that had, I shit you not, small white feathers sticking out of the top. Because you can always be fashionable no matter how functional you are.
With feathers in your fucking space helmet?
In your space helmet. Big bulky fucking clothes and feathers in your helmet.
All
Sounds
right.
like a new metal band.
Yeah, it kind of does, actually.
I mean, I don't want to get too contemporary, but we watched the Super Bowl last night. I think all of us and most of America.
Oh,
it kind of sounds like
some...
the way Usher dressed.
Oh,
His
yeah,
clothes
a little bit.
He was fashionable as fuck, but ridiculously bulky.
Dude,
yeah, they came back out, and I thought it was like Tron, a reenactment of like Tron.
That's the first thing I said to
Yeah,
Pepe.
Of
I'm
course.
like, holy shit, this is like Usher's Tron.
He literally, dude, he went from like shirtless to melting the hearts of every woman in America and probably the world. Then he came out on roller skates.
Dude, when he hit that with the blades, I was like, God damn this dude, what can't he do?
The roller skates are a balls ass move. And then
and they dusted off Little John and Luda? Are you kidding me?
Yeah, Luda had the boots. He had the fucking boots,
It was a delight.
And let's not forget kicking it off with Alicia Keys. I was like,
come on.
I love Alicia
When is
Keys.
she not awesome?
Yeah, and I think, yeah, dude.
What
Fucking,
a talent.
Usher, goddamn it, he fucking nailed that Super Bowl.
But the fashion is clearly fucking E.T.
Clearly.
It was crazy.
100%. I love it.
All right.
It's awesome.
So they got their puffy jackets, their puffy pants, their big black helmets with little tiny feathers for fun and fashion. Oddly, from the knees down, the entity's legs were so thin that they looked to Alfredo like black batons. And weirder still, they had no discernible feet. So big bulky fashion, tapering to little tiny stick legs and no feet.
Yeah, not good, man. Not
I
good.
mean, maybe that's how they roll. I mean, it could be perfect for them.
Yeah.
It seems no bueno to us because we need our fucking feet and solid legs.
Weird little weak legs.
I got tree trunk calves. They have to fucking hold up a lot of ass.
Yeah.
But these guys, maybe they're working with something different.
All right, cool.
As for their features, witnesses claimed that they looked very human-like, somewhat akin perhaps to the sharp features of the Modigliani, that's the painter we talked about in the last episode, looking aliens that had so infuriated the fascist Antonio F. and his dog in mid-November of 1978. So last week's episode, the first account, I think, was the guy's dog was barking. He saw the weird segmented, colored UFO and then the crazy skinny, sharp-faced aliens in the field, one standing in a ditch, one on a little mound. And he compared it to the works, the female figures in the paintings of Modigliani. So this seems very similar. Not in the least bit afraid of these beings, Alfredo climbed off his bike and approached what were very definitely strangers, going so far as to break the ice with the offer of cigarettes. I mean, at least he's not hucking rocks.
Yeah, he's like...
No, yeah, that makes sense for the time.
Yeah, like here, do you want a missile? You want to rip a missile real quick? Let's do this. Like, I'm all about
how
it, man.
hardcore are you to see two clearly non-human humanoid beings with semi-human, very sharp features and, the big bulky clothes and little tiny legs and be like, hey, you want a butt? You're just trying to find a rapport somehow.
Yeah, trying to find common ground with any, creature through nicotine.
I mean, cigarettes suck, but that's still humanity at its best.
Yeah, dude, whatever, man. Hard day at work, hard job. You're like, I should go for a smoke right now. Rip a missile, rip a butt. There you
Menthol
go.
binds the galaxy.
Dude, just get one of them.
It does.
Fucking sweet ass lung dart. There you go, dude. You're doing it.
It's unclear if the creatures refused Alfredo's offer or if they merely ignored him. Either way, the cyclist decided that it was in his best interest to keep the butts, turn around, and go back to town where maybe he could round up a few additional eyewitnesses. If that were his plan, however, it would prove fruitless, as the moment Alfredo started riding back the way he came, he was startled by a sudden flash. When he looked back, the enigmatic entities had vanished. So, you didn't shout, offered them fucking what he had on him. Didn't work out, left, and they popped away. But still interesting.
They should have took the butt, dude.
Should
honestly. Yeah, probably a sweet marb or something. Oh, nice, delicious marb.
Well, now we're going into the fantasies of an ex-addict here.
Yeah. Oh, god damn it. Some nights I just miss the yellow fingers and the deep cough and the constant sinus infections.
Yes, the agony of that. Oh, I love having you around. So I'm glad you both have long since quit.
Excellent times. Yes.
The penultimate case of the fervid winter of 1978 also comes to us from the files of Alberto Rosales and involves the Buto family who, while returning home from visiting some relatives, came across a strange set of travelers. On December 23rd at about 8:30 p.m., the heads of the Buto clan, Francesco and Fiorentina, Fiorentina, beautiful.
Yeah.
Were driving their brood back home through San Vito Chietino, which is about 14 miles southeast of Francavilla, where the last incident took place, when a series of events occurred in rapid succession. So let's follow this. Within a matter of seconds, their vehicle was struck by a dazzling beam of light, which immediately caused it to grind to a halt without the driver hitting the brakes, an event which corresponded to the sudden appearance of a hopping 3-foot-tall astronaut with what looked to be a green flashlight-like object wrapped over its shoulder, who stopped briefly in front of the car before bounding off into a nearby pine grove at an astounding rate of speed. So, light, stop, bouncing little astronaut.
Okay.
Gone. Confounded by this instant chaos, Francesco initially assumed that he'd hit the Bantam spaceman, who was wearing a dingy brown 1960s style cosmonaut-like outfit. Jesus Christ, Rob. Like outfit, complete with an oversized helmet and a square black visor. This getup resembled that of the equally diminutive but much less grimy silver-suited flying astronauts with large helmets equipped with bulky black visors who'd buzzed Alfonso Marinelli, scaring the piss out of him and temporarily incapacitating his brand new Mercedes in Novelli back on December 7th. So you remember that as the one mark that we compared to the little Potosi sheep slayers?
Yeah,
the ones flying
cool
with the big light on their chest.
Yeah, yep.
But I mean, they're dressed like astronauts. They have the big helmets that are oversized for their size. They've got the weird bulky black visor. So one's like, dirty, brown, nasty, beat up. Maybe if it's time travel, they're from a different place or a different period. But either way, it's interesting, the analogy. Considering that they'd likely hit and possibly injured a fellow, albeit tiny and evidently gravity-defying, sentient being, the Butos were unsure what to do next. Their already perplexed state was only exacerbated by their 2 children who insisted that, despite what their parents had said, they had not seen 1, but 2 little brown astronauts. And they had not merely bounced over the asphalt as if on an invisible cushion of air, but actually floated 8 to 14 inches off of the ground, never once touching the pavement. What's more, the kids doubled down, insisting that they'd moved in unison, talk about mirror men there, employing a series of jerky staccato motions that convinced them that what they were really dealing with weren't just weensy alien astronauts. Nope, they also had to be robots. So that's what we're getting from the kids in the back. They see 2 of them. They think they're robots. The parents in the front are like, there was one hopping dude. Just make of it what you will. To make matters even more confusing, ufologist and event organizer Pino Morelli claims that after the arrhythmic astronaut or astronauts had disappeared, a UFO materialized next to the Buto's car. This was followed by the arrival of what in the darkness presumably looked like a group of tall children who, like the grimy cosmonauts, were also hopping rather than walking. Perhaps being younger and not having the benefit of heavy boots, the Butos watched as these more childlike creatures had a tendency to slip and fall while jumping, indicating perhaps that these visitors were attempting to get used to Earth's gravity. Or maybe it was just space kids fucking around. It's hard to tell sometimes.
Yeah.
So just weird. Just 1 or 2, robot or not, astronaut or not. Then I'm imagining like the kid-like aliens that were semi-grays at the end of Close Encounters of the Third Kind, because it's like,
oh yeah,
and they're just like naked, waddling around like penguins bumping into each other or whatever the fuck they were doing. But, you know, less gray-like and just more weird, I don't know, bobbing, falling, weird little people.
Yeah, this is a mess. Wow. Okay.
It's a fucking mess. Thank you. Yes.
Yeah, this is
That's why I love this fucking flap. It is a hot fucking mess. It's so fucking exciting, though.
Yeah.
All right. That was the penultimate, so we know what comes next. Fucking the big show, or the final show at least, because it doesn't necessarily build to an exciting climax when it's real life. You just take what you get. Things had definitely slowed down from multiple events happening nearly every day, or at least every week, to the paranormal geyser turning into a trickle with just 2 concluding events, including the one we just talked about. So we're on to the last one now. In the last 2 weeks of that year, the final reported case of this phantasmagorical flap took place a full week and some 230 miles northwest, as the crow flies, and on the opposite coast from San Vito Chietino, which is, you know, where the Butos were. But while Buto's children believed that the figures they saw were likely robots, the eyewitness in this case had absolutely no doubt that he was dealing with a potentially dangerous automaton. The event took place in the historic Garibaldi Plaza in Viareggio, Italy, an area that would be described in a 2023 review on TripAdvisor as, quote, sadly, really dirty and smelly. There are dead birds, trash, and feces in the streets. I found it and I felt compelled to mention that.
That's, dude. Wow. That's an indictment on the people in the municipality.
It doesn't speak well of the Plaza Garibaldi.
Yeah, no, the maintenance crew's got to get on top of that shit. You know why? Because they're out back ripping butts. That's why. Too busy ripping butts.
Smoking with the aliens.
Dude, the trick is to rip butts while you work. There you go.
Hell yeah.
It's
multitask.
It's good for your cardio.
Whether or not it was cleaner in 1978 is an open question. But what we do know is that on the evening of December 30th, a man walking through the plaza was surprised to hear a sharp whistling sound. His surprise was swiftly usurped by shock as a huge metallic missile-like object came in for a landing nearby. The observer saw a hatch open on the side of the not quite as phallic as the last craft, expelling a shiny metal robot. Although details on this astonishing encounter are frustratingly sparse, Maurizio Verga's Iticat, also known as the Italian UFO catalog, states that the man was suddenly overcome by a wave of intense heat that seemed to be emanating from the mechanical man. Just as he was about to pass out from the heat, the robot disappeared back into the missile, where, after it promptly took off, vanishing somewhere beyond the sea. We're not going to sing that because we're not going to pay the rights.
Yeah.
So this thing just lands. It's so bizarre.
So yeah, a fucking full on like Elon Musk vertical land, I guess.
Yep.
Door opens. Classic boxy ass robot pops out. 19 fucking 60s, 50s vintage, maybe even 30s. Wanders around. Gets real hot. Dude starts sweating. God knows if there are other people there. I don't know how popular the Dead Bird Plaza was in 78. Then it fucking runs back into its ship. It's fucking decidedly non-saucer ship and just shoots off. And there we are.
All right, man.
This pile.
All right, cool.
Thus ends one of the most beguiling episodes in the history of ufology. One that is full of strange run-ins with even stranger creatures that behave in bizarre ways that, for the most part, fall into no easily discernible pattern and offer nary a clue as to what the overarching agenda of these alien interlopers may have been, assuming, of course, there was any agenda whatsoever. It seems that various beings from myriad places were either playing ninth-dimensional chess, employing gambits and using pieces that are well-nigh unfathomable to our feeble primate brains, or the whole thing is just one big bag of batshit crazy, and that trying to suss out any deeper meaning would be the thought experiment equivalent of herding cats with feather dusters. In short, madness, and likely a complete waste of time. But maybe not. Maybe something truly magical was happening throughout Italy in 1978. Perhaps the people involved were changed in ways they might have never imagined, putting themselves into heretofore undreamed positions and setting up new paths into the future in ways that are both multitudinous and for most of us incomprehensible. Either way, and I think I'm erring on the side of batshit crazy, it's one hell of a ride. And there we have the 78 invasion.
Oh,
dude,
man.
there it is, man. Multitudinous, the reckoning of the aliens from Italy. It is really just like you said here, madness. It's honestly like just this bizarre assemblage of things that, okay, the last episode there was some tie-ins. You kind of piece them together in a little box, make them make sense. But with these, it's just like across the board weird. Now, I know that
robots,
last week,
fucking all sorts of shit.
Dude, I know last week I'd made the comment of, maybe this is some weird projection from a higher dimension or something, because these things aren't really necessarily interacting. They're just sort of like they're doing shit. They're not, I mean, there's some interaction, but they just zip in and then they just kind of zip out. There's no directive. There's no, no typical
last week,
gray bullshit.
We had a very specific hologram interaction.
It's
that seemed to tie in with that idea. But I know what you're saying. Like, I mean, what could be the overarching idea behind this? It doesn't make sense. Like, I love the idea, and I know we talked about it a little last week, of a window area that just opens up, and then all sorts of things can come out and play, and for some reason it's carte blanche for a certain period of time, and different things are going to do whatever the fuck they want to do, whether it's like little Venezuelan, 3-foot tall cavemen that are fucking knife proof or whoever, whatever, Point Pleasant was one of them, obviously. But there's also a part of me that loves the idea that like it's about contracts and bureaucracy. And at some point, like the one contract is up, and before the other one gets in there, everyone gets to throw in a bid and just kind of like check out the lay of the land.
So
whether
like
it's the fucking robots, the flying dwarves, the techno-fae, the fucking reptoids, whatever the fuck it is, they all get to fucking look around the house, see if it's something they want to rent for lease for a year or whatever, or the country in the case of Italy.
Yeah, so like Earth is in like free agency, basically.
Yes.
They're just like,
100%.
yeah, we're free agents. There you go. All right, yeah, so there's no contract signed, there's no bonuses, no nothing.
And that's why it sucks, because at some point after Betty and Barney Hill, between that and Whitley Strieber, the fucking Greys signed on. And clearly they're locked into a long-term contract, which blows.
Yeah. Right.
The Reptoids have it too, and a few others, the fucking Arcturians and the fucking Nordics and whatever else, but it's mostly a fucking Grey thing now. But at this point in time, it was crazy. Now, I know that's just a little fantasy, like the idea that it's just wide open, but what could possibly explain it? Now, all right, let's do what we do. Let's go skeptical. 1978. The year of Steven Spielberg's seminal Close Encounters of the Third Kind.
Yep.
Which brought a kind of sort of legitimacy, because unlike the space opera of Star Wars, this is based on real life cases that actually happened, with interviews, ad infinitum with Jacques Vallée and J. Allen Hynek, of course, who, had a cameo. So, lots of TV shows, even I vaguely recall it as young as I was, like, network documentaries and magazine stories and paperbacks were released, all tying in, all purporting to tell the story. So could this have had an influence? Yes, absolutely. I think it could have. And we have to acknowledge it.
Yeah, no, skeptically speaking, for sure. Yeah, no, and being the 70s and UFO, like you said, like Zanfretto's on TV talking about it, everybody could really be jumping on this bandwagon. It was like, oh yeah, I got like a UFO thing that happened to me too. Just making it as weird as is possible, which for the time, actually, which is kind of interesting. A lot of the stuff that they are reporting in this series that we're doing now, a lot of the stuff that they're talking about, there isn't, there is some like cultural touchstones for, like you said, like with the very first case, like that Frankenstein. But some of the stuff is almost so fucking bonkers. You're like, well, were they that creative that they really came up with something that fucking out there?
Oh, I agree.
Yeah,
logic dictates some of these cases. And remember, this lasted a whole year. We just really covered the winter months. Are surely hoaxes or confabulations or people that saw a little something and maybe are adding to it. It happens in big flaps. It is what it is. But I do not think that the bulk of these are completely made up and just thrown in there. Though no. I would not blame a hardy skeptic for thinking, well, that's exactly what this sounds like. Because it is so random and fucked up, it does sort of seem like people are just throwing their fucking bullshit stories into the fucking ring. or, throwing their hat in the ring of fucking weirdness.
Yeah.
But I don't think that's the case, because like we were saying earlier, they're so esoteric and in a way unsatisfying that if you're going to fucking tell a story, tell a good story.
Right.
These are just like rose-colored dude has no face slips into a wall. The fuck am I going to do with that?
Yeah.
And like time-wise, they all kind of happen relatively, obviously within the same time period there. And I don't really,
in this case,
I mean, obviously the media, I'm sure, is reporting on some of it, which could get people on board to be like, oh, hey, check it out. I saw this or I saw that. Then again, man, going back to the theory of like, all right, if you're dealing with a window area, right, where just things are happening to be slipping through, or again, the fifth dimension, casting their three-dimensional shadow or their shadow into our three-dimensional world, and we're just happen to be seeing things. I mean,
that makes me so. I mean, I get that. I know that's the new Grushian way. This is the wave of the future, and God damn it might be real.
Yeah,
but the idea of fucking fifth-dimensional shadows, it's so goddamn magic whale, man. It's so hard because it's like, well, fuck, I want an alien or a Bigfoot or a something. If it gets to the point where it basically seems like we are watching movies from another dimension, so some other dimension's fiction is even being transmorgified to something even more obscure and obtuse, then, I mean, it's still fascinating and it's an interesting universe to live in. But at that point, it's a fucking shit show.
That, man, or then again, my favorite, the umbrella. We're just talking about, the phenomenon showing itself differently in different time periods. And the 70s are cool, apparently. I mean, now we get the grays. Back then, you got all kinds of fun shit. I don't know, for whatever reason.
I feel like it's always going to be grays from now on until we figure out what it is. Like it's never going to go. It's never. You're not going to get this again.
No,
like I feel like this is not going to happen again.
No, I think that
you might hear the one-off story about something, but you're not going to get flaps like this. I don't think. If you do, it's going to be somehow grays are going to be involved in all of them.
I think maybe the grays are like the final form.
Well,
unfortunately,
I pray not, because this is the wicked pisser, because it means one of two things. One, from a debunking point of view, it means that people are just telling crazy stories and having fun and being influenced by cinema and pulp fiction and whatever else. And it just was carte blanche and it went crazy. And then the grays got big, especially after Communion and, all the TV shows in the 90s. And now that we're just living with a new fiction. Or the alternative is that for some reason, all of this crazy, awesome shit, all of these stories that we have done, since word go, with crazy crabulons and fucking weird, spur-headed 12-foot tall things and all sorts of shit. All these things were coming here and they were doing whatever they were doing. And then suddenly they stopped and are replaced by a handful of entities, not just the grays, but primarily the grays. And if we're going to look at this as something that's really happening historically, even if it's in a scope that we can't quite wrap our heads around, then that's a question that really needs to be asked. Like, why? Why did all of these cool things, dangerous and weird though they might have been, stop coming here? And now we basically just get a handful, primarily the grays, and a handful of others that are like the tall whites and this and that are variations of the grays. And then just a few others that like the Nordics that have always been there, the pretty people from Venus, some Adamski type bullshit. So, I mean, and it's funny because this is something I would, like to talk to like Rob Christofferson or people that are more versed in ufology than myself and be like, what was the shift? Because I know a skeptic would say the shift is there was a best-selling book and everyone just jumped on board, and they wouldn't necessarily be wrong.
Right. But
taking it from a historian of the phenomenology of alien interactions, I would wonder what somebody, balls deep in that, Richard Dolan, anybody would be like, all right, why is it that this is what's happening now? And if there's like a tipping point, but I've read so much, I've seen so much, I feel like one of the three of us would have heard about this alleged event. Like if Valiant Thor said, all right, you sign on this line, you get this shit, you sign on this line, you get this. I've never heard of any event like that in ufology.
Yeah, maybe it's when they made the deal with JFK. I don't know. All that worked out for them. So, yeah. There it is. All right, man. Well, shit. I mean, we nailed it. Fucking Italy.
We nailed it.
In the 70s, man.
Did we?
Yeah, I mean,
this is slippery as fucking eels. We nailed nothing.
In your outro, you said that it's just madness. There's nothing you can really make of it. It's just the shit popped up. People reported it, whether or not they're embellishing it or not. It's just... It's
the
like
takeaway is we live in a world where this happened.
Oh,
now,
yeah,
maybe
there
it
you
didn't
go.
all literally happen the way they're reporting it, or maybe it fucking did. I don't know. But we live in a world where it was reported and it was treated like fact. And some people had experiences in our, well, not your lifetime, but in Chris and my lifetime when we were very young, this shit happened. And that alone makes it absolutely fascinating.
Yeah.
There it is, Alien Invasion Italian Style Part 2, The Reckoning. Robert, we have some folks to thank over there at our Patreon. They support us monthly at patreon.com/Cryptonaut podcast. $1, $5. Be sure to get the crypto, or the Discord, the crypto cord. Yeah, the crypto cord. Get the crypto cord access on the old Discord there for the Hell Space server. Robert, let's do those shout-outs.
Jerry.
Thank you, Jerry.
Cody Johnson.
Hell yeah, Cody.
Justin Walters.
Thank you, Justin.
C. Hessen.
Thank you, C. Hessen.
Mementi Zombie.
Hell yeah, awesome. Love it.
Amanda Cox.
Thank you, Amanda.
Luke Crizzle.
What up, Mr. Crizzle?
Justin Rupert.
Hell yeah, Justin.
Kelvin Felgate.
Thank you, Kelvin.
Zachary Mowry.
Thank you, Zachary.
David Check. That's
What
like
up?
the country, not like the fucking mark.
Hell yeah, Dave. What up?
Big Red 06.
Hell
AKA
yeah.
Big Red 06.
Mr. 06, thank you so much.
Jeff Bat. Two
Thank you,
T's.
Jeff. Thank you, Jeff, with the 2 T's.
Justin Gomez.
Hell yeah, thank you, Justin.
Michelle Appalucci.
Thank you, Michelle.
Ahab's other leg. Fucking
Oh,
nice. No one
man.
talks about that one.
Fucking
Yeah.
awesome, dude. I love it.
It's all the. Oh shit! I fell out there. Did you hear that?
No, well, no, it's because your mic popped. It's okay because we're still doing the Patreon shoutouts here, and we just did Ahab's other leg. Thank you, Ahab's
man,
other
blowing
leg.
out the mic. It's hard, remote people. We're just doing what we can do.
Moving on, Robert.
Ivan Rojas.
Thank you, Ivan.
J.R. Henry III.
Thank you very much,
shit.
Mr. Henry III.
I love this one. Random Banana Fox. One word.
Yes, awesome. Thank you. Actually, I was just speaking with them, I believe, on Instagram, actually. Thank you so much for your support. We appreciate it.
Schmooples.
Schmoople's Devourer of Mortal Souls.
Oh, I didn't realize it was a comma. Oh shit.
Yeah, there's a comma there.
Oh,
Yeah.
I didn't do. Oh no, sorry. Let's do that. I mean, we're not going to do it again. We're going to keep it, but let me do it. Schmooples, Devourer of Mortal Souls.
Excellent. Thank you,
Mortal.
Schmooples. They are back. Excellent. Thank you so much for your continued monthly support. Again, patreon.com/Cryptonaut podcast. Check it out there. Awesome stuff. Be sure to sign up for the Discord.
Thank
We
you
got all kinds of events happening. Follow us on the social medias, the Instas and the Twitters and the Facebooks happening over there. Like, comment, share, shoot me some DMs on Instagram. I love it. It's awesome. The merch, you got hellerspace.com, TeePublic Shop. You got CrowdMate over there, CryptonautMerch.com. Check all that out. At some point, the weather's going to turn. I don't know. I guess it's going to snow tomorrow or some shit. You got me.
Well, winter had to happen again.
I mean, yeah, whatever.
Well,
We've had baby summer for like fucking 3 weeks.
Yeah, dress warm, dress cold, whatever. Just, rock a Cryptonaut hoodie, throw a fucking shirt on underneath. I don't know, do whatever you got to do. Make yourself comfortable, rock our shit. Take pictures of it, put it on Instagram. We love seeing that stuff there. That's awesome. And that's it. That is the quickest outro I think I've ever done.
Yeah, man. You've had a tough week. You deserve to get out quick.
It's cool, man. We're just going to bail out of here, hop over to the Patreon because this week, boys, over on Patreon, we got episode 200.
Oh, shit.
Yeah.
Dang, all right.
How did I not even know? That's
so
amazing.
if you sign up for Patreon, you're like, oh, I found this podcast, which people, I get messages weekly. Hey, I just found your podcast, and I'm at episode number 1. I'm like, oh, you got a ways to go. But if you're at like number 1, you get to the end of the catalog, and you're like, oh, I want to check out some more stuff. There are bonus audios available at Patreon.
Yep.
200 episodes, man. Check it out. And what's really cool about that is if you don't want to download the Patreon app or use the RSS feed, you can go to Spotify, use your Patreon login there, and you get access to all the bonus audios on the Spotify app, which makes it so much goddamn easier and convenient. And we thank Spotify for that integration because thank God something makes sense out there.
Absolutely.
Yeah, no, there it is. There's my Spotify, just kissing their ass as much as I can. I don't care. The integration's huge, and I love their app. So there it is. So yeah, we will be back next week live in the studio. And I believe next week, boys. Oh, we're talking about some listener stories.
Ooh.
I got
Oh,
two.
snap.
I got 2 specifically picked out, so we're gonna be checking that out. And we're going to have a little special bonus episode dropping for all y'all out there. Hopefully, fingers crossed, as long as nothing changes. But yes, be on the lookout for that. And without further ado, we'll be talking to y'all soon.
Goodbye.
And how?
Did I really say without further ado, we'll be talking to you soon? Does that make sense?
You sure did, buddy.
Does that make any sense?
Dude, nothing. This has felt like, I feel like we're alternate dimension us.
Yeah.
Like this whole pod, I mean, obviously we're still us, and I adore you guys, and it's fantastic. But I feel like this has been like a shift. This pod has been fucking weird.
Yeah.
I can read less than usual.
Yeah,
which is already pretty bad.
We're having some weird issues with your microphone, where like it doesn't want to obey. Apparently,
it doesn't want to work.
No, it's just your microphone went rogue for some reason. We're not quite sure, but you know what? We're gonna tackle that during the week. I think I got an idea. I think I got a way we can get around that. So there you have it. And this is a proper outro. We'll be talking to you soon.
Goodbye.
Damn. Yeah.
0. You know what that included? 0 adieus. There it is.
Oh yeah. No, I mean
no adieus.
Your French is nice.
Nice. Awesome.
Sweet.
All right. We'll be talking to you.
Bye, fuckers.
Bye.
See you.